This is Mission Qualfon, a monthly podcast that takes you inside the workings of our company, but not just the ins and outs of business. We look at the ideas and insights that make Qualfon truly unique. As a company, we are committed to being the best and making each person's life better. Join us as we get to know and learn from people from across the organization. What's their story? What have they learned? And how do they live out Qualfon's mission? Welcome to Mission Qualfon.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to episode 16 of the Mission Qualfon Podcast. Hello, Jeremy.
Hi, Marisol. How are you doing?
I can't believe it's the end of October.
I know.
2020 it's been a crazy year, but I just can't believe we're in the thick of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, the joke is that it's we're now into the fifth year of 2020, right? But the reality is it's flown by. I agree. And this is normally your purview, right? but as I've gone back and looked at our reports on the podcast, I see that our last episode with our Chief Person Officer, Mike Jossi, is off to a great start. Man, he had a lot of listens right out of the gate, and that was awesome.
I received a lot of positive feedback too. People really enjoyed the interview. You and I got some compliments, which was nice because, we're not journalists or experts at interviewing, so that was interesting.
Yeah, we do this for fun. Yeah. Hey, I do have a journalistic question, though. I'm putting on my investigative journalist hat. You mentioned a few episodes ago that you were going to enroll in the Stairway program. And so I just wanted to follow up and see how that's going.
It's going well. I definitely have done at least one, is it called a step or a module a month?
Yeah, activity. I just call them activities.
Activities. Yeah. I've definitely done at least one a month, maybe more sometimes. It's been interesting. It's been mostly up until this point, really doing sort of a different testing or evaluations to learn more about what kind of, I don't know how to explain it because they're all kind of a little bit different tests, and different modalities. But it's interesting. I love to learn more about myself. It's some might argue my favorite subject. So that's been interesting. It's been good. And did we mention what Stairways is?
Well, no, I was going to say maybe we should add a little context. It's a program that helps any employee. So anyone who's employed here at Qualfon is invited to participate. It's not mandatory, but it's there as a tool to help you. It's really kind of a self-discovery tool. It's a career development, career alignment tool. So it gives folks an opportunity to learn maybe those career fields or career lines that best align with their own interests and talents. And so it walks you through, as you mentioned, you've already done, at least like an activity a month. There are, I think, 52 total activities. So I think the idea was it's supposed to be a year-long program, but some people do it quicker than that. Some people take a little longer. It's self-paced, right? The idea is it's kind of a self-discovery. And the whole idea is to find out, hey, what might I be able to do? What career field might be the best fit for me? And it's open to anyone, but really for agents. If this is someone that's starting with Qualfon and this is their first job, it's really perfect for them, because if they're like I was, it might take a while till you really decide what am I going to do for my career. And so this is a tool that really lines up with that part of our mission, which is helping people pursue their total vocation.
I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm doing as we're speaking, I'm looking at my computer for the last results. I can't find it easily, but I want to say it was a personality test, the last one I just took. Mm-hmm. And I do remember there were different categories, and the description for me was seeker, that I was a seeker.
Okay, great.
Which seems pretty accurate.
And I think I was a seeker too when I did that activity. Those of us in the mission, we had a chance to kind of pilot it. And so we went through it. And I believe I was also a seeker, but we'll check back with you to see how that's going as you go through that.
So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Great.
And we had this great interview, and they mentioned Qualfon University. Mm-hmm. And I know we have a lot that falls under education at Mission and at Qualfon, and education is extremely important to the executives and to the chairman. But sometimes I get confused on the different departments. So could you break that down for us a little more?
Sure. We've got the stairway that you mentioned, and that falls under the mission. It's part of the mission. But then we have what we call our Qualfon University. And there's really two parts to that. There's higher education. And one of our early episodes was with Lyman Beatty, who kind of is our North American manager of that program. And we have a higher ed program, and folks don't know this, but we have a real university that folks can get bachelor's degrees and master's degrees from. That's called Rothert University, but that is a program that is available to our employees and their families, and that falls under that higher education banner. And then there's what we call Leadership Academy, which is kind of the professional development and leadership development arm of Qualfon University. And within that, we have what's called our Supervisor Certification Program. And then we also have Advanced Leadership Academy, which is Operations Manager Certification, Site Director Certification. So this whole QU umbrella really covers higher education, formal education, and then professional development and education as well. And you'll hear our guests refer to that a number of times. We're talking with Eric Rothert, who is Vice President of Operations this week. And you'll hear the importance that he puts on those things. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, with no further ado, let's go to the interview.
Eric, one thing that we're seeing is kind of a theme as we go through this podcast is that most of us never dreamed we'd be working in BPO. So I'm wondering if you can kind of share with us your background and your history. And I'm wondering if you kind of are in that same zone as the rest of us have been.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Jeremy. When I joined the company back in June of '92, it was a subsidiary of American Airlines. And it was a new company in Austin, and I saw they had flight benefits. And I said, hey, that's something I want. So my initial thought was I was going to get flight benefits. I was going to earn some money along the way. And here I sit 28 years later.
And that is so common. Everyone's story is almost the same. I mean, the details are different, but no one ever, as a kid, said, when I grow up, I want to work in a BPO. So what kept you here? I mean, tell us about this time from 1992 that has kept you here this whole time.
You know, once I started the job, I realized it was something different every day, even at the agent level. You know, you were truly making a difference in the person's, I guess, life experience based on who you were helping. I was working on our American Airlines cargo program, a customer we still support today out of Dallas, Texas. But it was always something different. It was challenging. And I learned as I was there, they had a management development program, very similar to Qualfon University in supervisor readiness. And I entered that program and got to experience a number of different jobs within the company. I spent 6 months working as an overnight operations supervisor. I got to see that side of the business. I worked as a team leader. I worked in our HR office there in Austin, Texas. You know, I got to realize a promotion and move to Columbus, Georgia to manage a facility we had there that was dedicated to a credit card customer that we support, and made it back to Dallas. And gosh, 1999 as a site director there. And just a number of different roles along the way. 4 different acquisitions, multiple different reorganizations, but always something new. And I think that's what kept me around. It was always a new challenge every day.
Eric, I'm really interested in part of that description where you said 4 acquisitions. You know, one of the things I like about doing the podcast is it makes me revisit my career. And I was going through the companies I've been to, and I don't actually think that I had worked for a company that had been acquired. But I know that for many of the companies I worked for, the goal was to be acquired, including my own. So I have that perspective, but I don't have the being acquired perspective. So I want to hear about that.
Each acquisition is different. The very first one, we were part of American Airlines. So the feeling there was one of shock. We never expected to be sold. We always thought we would be part of American Airlines. And it was a more aggressive acquisition, I'll say. It was by a private equity group out of California. We were then sold to a sole owner that really had already retired and had a career and needed a hobby. So that was a whole different feeling. We then were acquired by a private equity group who really wanted to build us and position us for sale, as all private equity groups do, and held on to us probably longer than they anticipated until Qualfon purchased us. So what I will say is each of the 3 previous acquisitions never really felt like we were home, because you always knew that you were going to be sold. And when Qualfon purchased us, it felt like we'd found a home.
And this was Dialogue Direct, right?
Correct.
Okay, so let me give the audience some background just in case they're not internal. So Qualfon acquired Dialogue Direct, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago?
It was December of 17.
Before we started recording, I asked you, some internal dialogue. I said, just confirming that you were part of Legacy Group 4, which is the vocabulary we're trying to actually phase out, because we want everyone to feel like part of Qualfon, feel like they're part of, one home, like you said. But after the acquisition, we were kind of introduced to a new group. So we had split up the company into like group 1, 2, 3, 4, actually 1, 3, 4. And then we transitioned from groups to legacies. And now I kind of feel like we're all, phasing that out, and that we're just kind of all one big company. Does that feel accurate to you?
Yeah, I think that's very accurate, Marisol. The one thing I would say is the acquisition was very thoughtful. Everybody treated each other as colleagues and peers, and you don't always get that in an acquisition. It was a patient integration. Nothing was forced. I commend the leadership team for really understanding each business unit's strengths and leveraging those strengths and taking the best of both companies and making it one. So it was a very, I guess I'll say, stress-free acquisition, but it was exciting, especially for us, because we were part of something bigger than us. We had a number of programs that were similar to things Qualfon had in place, but we probably weren't as cohesive in our execution against that. I think Qualfon was much more mature, for example, with Qualfon University, with, Fun at Work, different programs like that. So I don't think it could have gone better from an acquisition standpoint and an integration standpoint.
Well, you kind of have already answered part of this question, but I'll ask it anyways. As you've been through these acquisitions, and I'm assuming you've probably thought about this, if someone were to say, hey, Eric, come give us training on how to do an acquisition, what are some best practices you would share with other companies that might be going through this?
I think it's to really do the due diligence and listen to the leaders and the agents of the company you're acquiring, right? It's amazing what you learn by talking to the different levels within an organization. You know, I learn something every day, whether it be from one of the people I work with as a peer, or it could be a skip level meeting, or even an agent focus session, but just really listening and giving it some time so you can observe and see things that are strengths, things that are weaknesses, things that they could do better, things that they do well, but give it time. There needs to be a sense of urgency, but you don't want to rush into it without doing the homework.
So Eric, having been through 4 acquisitions, you've shared some of these best practices, which are great. Did you ever experience anything that was that could have been done better?
You know, I'm thinking back on each of them, and the very first one, when American Airlines sold us, I don't think the company that acquired us, again, it was a private equity group out of California, I don't think they really did a thorough job of due diligence, because once they bought us, they had a specific model that they followed for acquisitions. And it was, you know, we are following this model to integrate you into our portfolio. And they were very rigid in that approach. And there wasn't much room to deviate from how they did things, even though it probably made sense to change a few things. They thought they were buying an IT company, it seemed, but what they were buying is a call center that had IT equipment. So, you know, once they realized that in the business they were in, because it was very different from any of their other portfolio companies, it became more of a let's reduce cost and position this to resell, because it's not the type of business that we want in our book of business. So it was a very short-lived relationship with that group.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot with this question.
Okay.
Do you, by any chance, remember your first reaction to Qualfon's mission, or when you maybe recognized that the mission was really something that they practiced and not something that's just on a plaque?
I'm trying to think, you know, once I knew we were being acquired, of course, I went out and visited the website, right? And I'm reading all I can about it. And I think what I observed and what I saw was, this all sounds very good. It sounds like the type of company we want to be a part of. And culturally, I was thinking, because I've worked with this group of people for a long time, this is the perfect fit for us, because this is really who we are too. But then you have the show me, right? You want to make sure that it's real. And again, I'll talk about just being patient, and we observed what goes on. We are in the town hall meetings. You know, we see the communication that goes out. We see the programs that we have in place, whether it be Stairway and being the best version of yourself, you know, the mission statement, all the way to our owner who lives and breathes it, being the best BPO, making each person's life better. We see examples of it all around us, and we see it communicated across the company. So it is real. And like I said earlier, we feel like we are home now. And I can honestly say, over my 28-year career, I never really felt like that because of what the ownership structure was. Not that they were bad owners or bad leaders. We had great owners and great leaders, but we never felt like we had a home, and we have a home now.
That's great. I want to ask another tough question. This is tough question after tough question for you, Eric.
Okay.
And I'm coming at this from the vantage point of someone who trains supervisors, and a recurring theme that happens in that training is we talk about the mission. We talk about how do we get that all the way down to the agent level. It's a two-part question. In your part of the organization, do you feel like that understanding of the mission has gotten clear down to the agent level? And what are some things we can do as leaders to make sure that that mission is real to our line level employees and not just something that we in leadership talk about in platitudes?
Yeah, I think it has gotten down to the agent level. I think we can continue to do better with that just because it's a large organization. And you have to remember, you always have people joining the company as you get new programs and you have seasonal ramps to that business. I think the town halls are a great tool for our site directors. They have those in each of the sites, sharing the different, we give at work, we care, all the different programs, the mission office, the chaplaincy. Those things are tangible. People can see, feel, and touch that. And sharing those across our communication boards internally makes it real for everybody. So again, I think you've always got to keep focused on it. Team leads, in my opinion, are the most important leaders we have in the company because they are interacting every day with our frontline employees. So it's the toughest job in the company and it's the most important job in the company. And the fact that we're supporting those team leads with all the different training and Qualfon University programs helps us continue to deliver that message.
So Eric, I love how you described that it feels like a home, and that makes me happy, and I'm glad we get to share that with the audience. I think you said it was 28 years of experience.
Correct.
In this space. What are some things that you love about this industry, the company, the people? What advice do you have for the team leads, future leadership and agents, anyone who might come upon our little podcast?
Marisol, that's a great question. I talked earlier about every day being a different challenge. That's what kept me engaged. The thing I would say that I've taken out of all the years is I enjoy the people I work with on a day-to-day basis. We truly are family. We know each other's stories. We understand, what they're going through as a family. If they have children, we've watched those children grow up and go off to college. And that's very satisfying to watch people grow both professionally and personally over the years. My message for the team leads out there, because I think if you can be successful as a team leader, you can move to the next level very quickly in our company. My key message is always be present. You have to be engaged. You have to pay attention to the details. I always say our business it's not rocket science, but it is complicated. And you need to pay attention to the details, be engaged, and be present for your employees. So you're truly listening to them and understanding the challenges they may be going through, the areas where you can help them to develop, to be better employees, to be better as citizens, help them in their growth, because that's what's going to resonate with you when you sit back and look back on your career, is how you helped people be the best version of themselves.
Well, that was another great interview, Jeremy. I really enjoyed getting to meet Eric and just hearing his story. I never really realized how many people have a career in BPO like myself that that wasn't the original plan.
Mm-hmm. And it becomes a very rewarding career. And I really heard that in Eric's interview, where he talked about when you look back, the things that are really going to matter most are how you impacted people and how you made each person's life better. It's not the mundane things we do every day and the stuff we think about, reports and metrics and all that stuff. It's the personal things that are so rewarding. And I think Eric did a great job of talking about that.
Yeah, I loved his description about, a home, finding, a home, because I would never have attributed that word to, a company I've worked for before. But when he said it, I think both of you and I had the same reaction. Like, that's exactly it. That's how it feels. Like, yes, we have a business. Yes, we service many clients. We are a for-profit business, but I think working for this company over time, you see the mission being lived. And I'm grateful for Eric coming on and sharing his story.
Yeah, me too. And this idea of home fits right in. We've heard the word family several times in this podcast, referring to this company as a family. And so it makes sense that idea of home comes into the conversation too.
Thank you again for listening. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. All that does help us, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy.
See you, Marisol.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Mission Qualfon. Remember, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Mission Qualfon.